the students, school employees, or maybe the future researchers who will benefit. And next, we will tackle about the scope and delimitation of the study. If we summarize this as the study coverage, you will list the variables that involve whether independent, dependent, and you enumerate them all here, including the subtopics or subconcept of your variables that are included of the study conceptual framework. You need to write it again in the scope, which is the coverage of the study, concept, variables, population, timeline, and locate covered by the study. And next is, what is delimitation? Delimitation is boundary, excluded factors, and why you excluded them. When we see delimitation, is state the boundary or the variables that are not included in your scope. It's like it's reverse, right? In the scope, you state the included and the delimitation, the excluded factors that didn't include into your research. So, in the scope and delimitation of the study, you will answer the following to how to write the scope and delimitation of the study. First is what? The topic of investigation and the variables included. Meaning, like what I said, enumerate the sub-variables and sub-concept covered by your study. And next is where, setting or local, which is the place where you survey or experiment. And next is when, time frame. What is the expected time or months of completion when you are survey until when is coverage of your study. And next is why, general objectives. So you can repeat your objectives that you work in your statement of problem. And next is who, the population and sampling. Who are going to include the respondents and who are not. And of course, of how to do your study. And next is how, the methodology of the research, which may include the research design, methodology, and the research instruments. Meaning, how you need to mention here or how to do your research. For scope and delimitation to be organized, you need to mention here why some factors are excluded and why you didn't include them. Can you control them or are they too difficult to examine or experiment on? You need to mention here in the delimitation part. And now, we proceed to our time and place of the study. So, time and place of the study. First is specifies when the research was conducted. Meaning, state the exact period when the study was conducted. Like for example, academic year, semester, or months to avoid confusion. And next is identifies where the study took place. Meaning, mention the school, institution, or setting where the study took place. But keep it general if confidentially is required. And next is limits the study to a specific period and location, making the result clear and realistic. Meaning, this section is usually briefly one short paragraph focusing only on when or where the study was done. And next is ensures the research is organized, focused, and replicable. Do not include the explanation, results, or procedures. Only provide information related to time and location. And also the time and place are should match the participants, methodology, or data collection schedule mentioned in the study. Write in clear, objective tone suitable for research writing. So definition of terms is a mini dictionary in your study that contains important terminologies, concepts in your paper that needs to be defined. Meaning, it's like a mini dictionary in your research paper that explain or define important concept that need to the readers understand in your research. And here is the tips on how to write the definition of terms. First is define only the important terms variables, meaning you will put the main variables here, possibly also the sub-variables. You will enumerate them here and give them the operational definition. And next is use operational definition. Say operational definition can come from dictionary. But how was that term used here in your study? It is not necessary that you have a backup here from an online dictionary or online source. What is needed and how you design or defined based on how you use it in your study. And next is alphabetically arranged. This is the most important because this is a mini dictionary. It should be alphabetically arranged. So in this part, we will discuss two things, which is a theoretical framework and conceptual framework. First, we will tackle about theoretical framework. When we see it are the theories where the research is anchor. Of course, it's anchor because and you need to find existing theories that you can use to back up in your study. And next is relevant theories or laws are presented and explain how they lead to the present study. So it can be theory or law that you use or that should be relevant to your research. Important that it's relevant. Because if it's not relevant, why you include that in your topic? Of course, we'll stick to the art theories that can support your claim in your research. So the following tips is how to write the theoretical framework. So first is, what do I know about the phenomenon that I want to study? So these are the guide question how to follow the as you write your theoretical framework. First is, what do I know about the phenomenon that I want to study? Check if you know which theories you have. Read that as support the phenomenon or the problem in your research. Next is, what types of knowledge are available to me? Empirical, non-empirical, tacit, intuitive, moral, or ethical. And next is, what theory will best guide by teaching practice? This is basically what I'm telling you from the start. What is the theory that can guide you in your research? And next is, what theory will be best guide by teaching practice? Is this theory proven through theory or linked research? You have another research that you've seen that use these theories. It's good to read how they did research. And next is, what other theories are relevant to this practice? This is important how you apply the findings of others' research to your study. This is where relevance of the theories to your study will show. Next is conceptual framework. Based on the theoretical framework, create your own idea on how you will investigate in your idea. So this conceptual framework, if in the theoretical framework you use theories from others, and conceptual framework you create your own idea. So like theoretical framework is general theories on how variables interact with each other. Meaning, you will create based on the theories you will read and or your own framework on how you follow, how will do your research, and how you will investigate the significant relationship or your significant difference of your variables. And conceptual framework is specific direction on how you will carry out your research. Use different paradigm appropriate to your study. This is you can show the readers the process you will take to complete your research. This is made up from different paradigm. Say a paradigm, it is a flow chart. But I will provide two common paradigm and conceptual framework. So the first one is what we call a IPO, meaning it's I is input and P is process and O is output. So in the input, you will put the variables of how you process them. And after you input, then what is the outputs will be after you do the process. This is often used when the action is involved because it has an output, which is a set of plan or recommendation that will feedback for your input variables. So you can also have this, the IDM, which is the independent variable, dependent variables, and moderating variable. So your independent variable, you put in there and there is a arrow pointing independent variable. Meaning the independent variable is have investigated as to whether it's affect the dependent variable. Often this is added with a moderating variable, meaning that not just two variables are involved, but of course if there are many of your research. And that's all. Thank you for your attention.